Thank you for staying with us. Let's now switch lanes and take a look at the security situation in the country and how technology can be deployed to bring to an end or reduce at least to a minimal level reports of criminal activities in the country. And we're joined by Seun Awogwenle. He is a public policy analyst, a communications expert, an advocate for good governance and youth inclusion in politics. He joins us from our Lagos studio. It's a pleasure to have you today on the program show. We also have Alton. He is joining us. He is the founder of Genius Consulting, a boutique strategy and management consulting firm that serves a broad mix of private, public, and social sector institutions. He joins us from Houston, Texas, in the United States. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today, Alton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, kickstart this conversation for us. Now, we're trying to bring in, we're looking at a myriad of challenges we're having in the security sector, and we're looking at how technology can be deployed, to mitigate or even bring to an end, all of this. How can we do this? What can be done?
Well, I think one of the things that people need to understand about technology is actually an enabler. It's something that takes some existing infrastructure, some existing processes, and it capitalizes upon that to make people's lives easier. So when we talk about insecurity, I heard you mention about criminality and those types of elements going on. I know that brings a level of insecurity to people all over. I think one of the immediate areas where we can deal with that is in the area of agriculture and food management. And so whenever we look at technology at that level, specifically, we should look at trying to enable the on-the-ground farmers to be able to leverage what they do every single day and make it transparent to allow them to be able to access the funds that are required to expand on their existing operations. So there are definitely a lot of details around that, but just at a high level answering your question, those are some of the immediate ways that we can look at trying to deal with the areas of insecurity within the nation.
All right, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Seun, let's get to hear from you in your own perspective. I mean, or in your own estimation, how do you think we can do this?
Well, I mean, there is no doubt that Nigeria actually has a major security challenge. From as far back as 2011, Nigeria has had to deal with insurgency, but has now graduated into not just insurgency and terrorism. You have banditry, most importantly, in the northwest of the country. I mean, funding security is very capital intensive, right? I don't think we've actually done enough with funding. We try to put in some money, but it does not equate what you have or what you have seen globally. Nigeria needs to put more funding into security, and that takes us to the conversation that we're having about technology. There's a whole lot that Nigeria can actually do. When we hit the fight against insecurity with technology. I mean, come to think of it, you have examples of the closed circuit television, the CCTV camera. I mean, just recently, I heard LASMA they now have body cameras.
Cameras.
I mean, these are examples of advances that you've actually had. There's a whole lot that we can do aside from that. I mean, there are detecting devices that that we can adopt. You see some of these detecting devices in the bank, but we need to make it. I mean, what about what about the government ministries and parastatals and agencies? I mean, you can also you can also adopt detecting devices in some of these other areas. I mean, we also have, aside from CCTV as a surveillance mechanism, you also have the global positioning system, that's the GPS, that can also help you to locate where these bandits and these insurgents are, particularly in forests, like the governor of Kaduna was saying, they've been in Gwari and the rest of them. I mean, GPS can also help. I mean, there's also a lot that drone can do. Drone can help you to take pictures of where they are at the moment, can also help you to capture. So there's a whole lot that we can do that I do not think we are presently doing. And that also borders on the quality of the manpower. When you talk about the personnel, are they training? Are we training and retraining them? And also, most importantly, I saw something. Was it last week when we had the helicopter? There was the helicopter was reported to have been shot by by Boko Haram. I think that the social media, I think that the Nigerian military is actually not maximizing the advantage of social media and all of this as well. I mean, you are leaving the space for the insurgents to to pollute the minds of the people, to continue to put fear in the minds of the people, right? And they need to take charge of the narrative. They need to, decide the narrative. So there's a whole lot that we're not doing that we're presently doing. Because when you have situations like the reports I had last week that Boko Haram, were able to shut down an helicopter, you sort of demoralize the people, even the fighting troops themselves. And come think of it, it was reported that it was a fake news, right? So you don't leave the space for them. Social media, most importantly, there's a whole lot that the military can do. You should give, people, you should report from time to time, about
your
most of these things.
activities and your
You don't
advancements.
leave the gaps. You don't leave gaps. You don't leave space for, what's it called, for the terrorists to be able to, what's it called, leverage.
All right. Let me quickly come back to you, Alton. So one of the things that also has perhaps come up, as one of the things that can be done is food security. Also, which is perhaps one of the reasons why you have a lot of people falling into, all of this crimes and criminality. But in that space, what can be done?
I think some of the things that can be done is that there needs to be an effort put into in empowering on the ground farmers to have the infrastructure set up to allow them to prosper and generate revenue that within itself will deal with a lot of criminality. People just don't commit acts of terrorism or acts of violations against their common brothers just out of their natural sense. People are trying to get a sense of power and control to be able to take care of the livelihood. So there being policies and there being procedures and there being infrastructure set up that will allow these farmers to better produce food, to be able to produce jobs. There's a whole value chain associated with agriculture, of which whenever those policies are set up and there's a level of transparency of the actual workers that are there in their current operations through technology to present that to banks and people within government realms, they can get the investments that they actually need to further expand employment and allow people to have their own businesses, which generates wealth, which keeps them from having to go and do things that are outside of their character. Technology helps out with all those things, but definitely there needs to be something that technology is modeling. Technology does nothing more than simulate current state business processes. So we need to get some policy set up so that people can be able to take what they currently have, be enabled by base level technology, and then grow it from there. And you add on more and more technology that empowers people to have their own businesses and predict their own future.
Well, let's hope that technology is put in place for people to leverage and make use of it. But I have to say thank you, Alton Jackson, for joining us today on the program from Houston in Texas. All right. So, Sean, just in winding down this conversation, I mean, so like you heard him, deploying this, which is something that you both kind of agree on, deploying or putting all those things in place. You believe there's a lot that needs to be done, especially in funding. He believes also that, a lot of technology can be put in place for farmers, on the ground and all of that. But just as we wind down, again, looking at the farmers and all of that, what do you think, or even security, I mean, even employment as well, what do you think can be done? In that space as well,
I mean,
in 30 seconds.
It's absolutely clear that insecurity is already threatening, food sufficiency. Nigeria is, dealing, we have a problem, trying to meet our local demand, and then you have insecurity. Safety is a basic instinct. If we were both not safe, we won't be here. I mean, there's the same thing. It's actually the same situation with the farmers right there. In most especially in the northern part of Nigeria, they need to feel safe. They need to feel secure. If you do not, if you do not provide security, you cannot have activities. So, and that's a major problem because this is a time when Nigeria needs to meet its own, what's it called, local demand, and then you have a problem with insecurity, and farmers cannot go to the farm and over. So. I mean, whatever has to be done really quickly, right? Because, our population is growing. You cannot wait. So whatever has to be done really, really quickly.
Let's hope that what needs to be done is done quickly and, all of this challenge, security challenge, all of that, is taken out of the way so that we can have a more secure, a more, food secure also country. But I would say thank you as well for joining us today and sharing your thoughts.
My pleasure.